Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to give you that shortcut to being truly well-informed. Today, we're taking a fascinating journey, really, into the heart of a transforming nation. We want to understand a pivotal global figure, someone whose decisions are reshaping, well, an entire region.
Exactly. And our source material for this deep dive, it's exclusive excerpts from a really anticipated book, The Man Who Will Be King. It's by the American author Karen Elliott House. And it offers this unprecedented look into the personality and leadership of Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS.
MBS, right.
What makes it so insightful, I think, is that it's based on 6 direct meetings House had with him. 6, plus testimonies from close princes, ministers, even childhood friends, and ordinary Saudi citizens, too.
So a really wide range of sources.
Definitely. Very comprehensive.
Okay, so our mission here is to pull out the most important nuggets. How is MBS actually reshaping Saudi Arabia? Domestically foreign policy, how he's trying to diversify income away from just oil and, the bigger impact of all these changes on the world. You'll see why understanding him, the man himself, is just crucial to understanding the kingdom today, which is changing so fast. Okay, let's unpack this then. Karen House spent quite a bit of time with him. What were her first impressions, her initial observations about the man driving all this transformation?
Yeah, her initial observations are quite telling. She writes that MBS knows the true essence of power. And that means he doesn't really need these sort of artificial displays of authority.
Interesting. So not about the show.
Exactly. House suggests this isn't just like a personality quirk. His dislike of flattery, his confidence, it's actually key to how effective he is. It signals a leader who wants the unvarnished truth, which you kind of need if you're pushing such radical changes.
Right, sets a tone.
It does. She describes her first meeting at Arca Palace quite vividly. He came in wearing just a loose brown thobe, no bisht, no gutra, the traditional formal Saudi cloak and headdress. And for House, this simple clothing, it really signified that he doesn't feel the need for those outward symbols of power. He believes he possesses its true essence already.
Okay, so beyond just his presence, his clothes, House highlights something really distinctive about his communication style. What did she find stood out about how he actually talks, how he engages?
Well, she calls him a natural marketer, but I think it's maybe more than that. The insight is how his informal, direct style, combined with this deep grasp of history and current events, isn't just about being charismatic, it's strategic.
Strategic how?
He's not just giving information, he's selling a vision, selling a future, which is absolutely crucial if you want to rally support for something like Vision 2030, both at home and, internationally.
Makes sense.
His style and conversation is apparently quite unique. He'll often start an answer with a bit of historical context, just brief, and dive straight into the details. Very direct, convincing responses, comprehensive explanations, she calls them.
And this history thing.
Yeah, it's a passion he actually shares with his father, King Salman. House also noted his English is fluent in meetings. Only a translator and a note-taker were there, and they barely had to jump in.
Wow.
And another thing, like his father, apparently, he doesn't end meetings himself, lets the guests decide, avoids making them feel rushed. He even walked House to the door, introduced some advisors, then drove off alone. In a golf cart.
A golf cart. Seriously, that's quite the image for a crown prince with so much power. What do you think House implies with that detail? What does that choice suggest?
I think it goes back to that first observation, doesn't it? No need for the outward pomp. A focus on, directness. It's these little personal details, the background stuff that really help you build a picture of his trajectory.
Okay, tell us a bit more about those background details then.
Sure. House mentions he's King Salman's 6th son, 39 years old now. He was alongside his father through various stages when Salman was Emir of Riyadh, then later Crown Prince.
So learning the ropes early on?
Seems like it. And the author points out King Salman was quite meticulous in raising him, not just professionally, but even restricting his expenses, apparently.
Interesting detail.
And for fun, for recreation. MBS himself mentioned in a Fox News interview that he plays video games.
Video games, right. Okay, speaking of his sort of forward-thinking side, House apparently found a fascinating paradox in his work habits. Someone driving tech change, but still holding on to tradition in a surprising way.
Yeah, it's a curious one. She observed that even though MBS is clearly knowledgeable about, all aspects of technology, he still prefers to get important information printed out. On paper.
In this day and age.
I know, right? It's a detail that makes you think. But House also shares this anecdote that shows his attention to detail and his frankness. During one meeting, he just noticed her black abaya and said, straight up, you know you don't have to wear that.
Wow. That's direct.
Very. And she contrasts that immediately with her experience a decade earlier, being ordered out of a public place by religious police for not covering her hair. So that small observation, him just saying that, it really emphasizes the scale of the transformation he's led and his direct style in pushing it.
These personal insights really do set the stage for the bigger picture, don't they? Which is MBS's ambitious vision for Saudi Arabia itself. How does House characterize his worldview? What are his goals for the kingdom?
She describes his worldview as fundamentally realistic, and it's rooted firmly in Saudi Arabia first.
Uh-huh.
His ambition isn't just domestic, though. He wants Saudi Arabia to be an influential voice internationally, shaping geopolitics to, preserve peace and prosperity for his kingdom.
So a global player.
Definitely. Karen House's assessment is pretty stark. It would be wise for the world to watch this ambitious and resolute prince and his bold plan. And MBS himself said back in 2018 something like, "The Middle East is the new Europe. I believe this goal will be 100% achieved." He added, he didn't want to die before seeing the Middle East globally advanced.
Strong words.
Very. And this all connects directly to Vision 2030. That was launched in June 2016, remember, a year before he officially became Crown Prince. The whole aim being to break the country's, oil addiction.
Vision 2030 is huge, obviously. But how quickly did he move on implementing domestic changes? What was one of the first and maybe most dramatic big reforms?
House points straight to the anti-corruption campaign, the famous Ritz campaign, right? Named after the hotel where many high-profile people were detained. That kicked off in November 2017.
Right, I remember that. Big headlines.
Huge. And the book gives this staggering statistic. Corruption was estimated to be draining almost 30% of the state budget. Every year.
30%? Wow.
Yeah. So Karen House notes, MBS's main concern is just driving this relentless modernization, making sure nothing gets in the way. And the book says this campaign was actually widely welcomed by ordinary Saudis. It redirected huge resources toward those new development projects they need to cut oil dependence. Things like tourism, entertainment, logistics, industry, mining.
So cleaning house to fuel the future, essentially.
That seems to be the idea. And beyond the economy, the book suggests a big focus on Saudi Arabia's, maybe its greatest resource, its people.
Yeah.
Particularly the youth. How does MBS approach them?
Yes, that's a huge demographic there.
It really is. About 65% of the population is under 30. He actively presents himself as their voice, promising a modern economy, lower unemployment, and also, crucially, entertainment activities they were deprived of for so long.
And the anti-corruption drive tied into this, too.
House argues it did. It wasn't just about getting money back. It aimed to reset the field to be fairer. So young Saudis, even without powerful family connections, could compete in this booming private sector for jobs the state just can't provide anymore.
Makes sense. Leveling the playing field somewhat.
Kind of. And then perhaps one of the most visible shifts, especially if you're looking from the outside, has to be the changes for women in the kingdom. It's such a dramatic change from just a decade or two ago.
Absolutely striking. What does House say?
Her own experiences really paint the picture. She contrasts being hassled by the religious police for her hair a decade ago to literally flying in a helicopter piloted by a Saudi woman on a more recent trip.
That's quite a contrast.
Isn't it? And she tells the story of a woman who was initially rejected for a finance job by men, who now leads Tadawul, the Saudi Stock Exchange.
The CEO.
The CEO. The book really emphasizes that women are just visible everywhere now. Driving cars, obviously, but working in large numbers in government, private companies, CEOs not just of the stock exchange, but a major media company too, founders of their own businesses. It's presented as a complete societal re-engineering.
Okay, so if we connect all these domestic shifts, the economy, the youth, women, to the bigger picture, how is Saudi Arabia repositioning itself on the world stage under MBS?
Well, the book highlights that MBS seemed to realize quite early on that U.S. reliability in the Middle East was maybe declining, or at least changing.
An interesting perception.
Yes. And House notes he's been very keen to redefine Saudi Arabia's relationship with its traditional ally, the U.S., doing that alongside pursuing his broader global ambitions. This apparently became particularly clear after witnessing some of President Biden's policies, which some American observers felt were alienating allies and maybe cozying up to adversaries.
So a recalibration with the U.S. But what's really striking is his strategy for diversifying alliances. It's not just looking east or west, is it? It seems broader.
It is much broader.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia is pursuing this wide strategy of diversifying its partnerships within this context of, competition between the U.S., Russia, and China. So yes, while he's recalibrating with the U.S., he's also strengthened ties significantly with China and Russia.
Okay, the big three.
But crucially, the book notes his efforts go way beyond just those three. He's focused on expanding options generally, building strategic relations with Europe, and also with India, the sort of emerging Asian power.
India, too. Interesting.
And this diversification also includes reconciliation with traditional rivals, like Iran.
Right, the Iran reconciliation. That detail is particularly fascinating given the decades of tension. What did House learn about how that came about?
It really is intriguing. The author reveals MBS actually told her, before any official announcement, that Saudi Arabia would normalize relations with Tehran within a week.
He told her in advance.
Apparently so. He deemed it a necessary step. And then, sure enough, the reconciliation was announced March 10th, 2023. Brokered by China, remember, after a 7-year diplomatic freeze.
And has it held? There was skepticism.
There was. Some U.S. officials, analysts, they kind of downplayed it, doubted it would last. But according to the book, and what we've seen since, it seems to have strengthened. Embassies have reopened, high-level visits back and forth, flights have resumed. It really underscores his pragmatic, perhaps less ideological approach to foreign policy.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. To recap the key insights from our deep dive today, drawing on Karen House's work, we've explored MBS's unique personality, his very direct communication style, his sweeping domestic reforms, from that anti-corruption drive to empowering youth and women. And finally, his strategic repositioning of Saudi Arabia globally through really diversifying its alliances.
And I think Karen House's core message, the thread running through the book, is that if you want to understand this renewed Saudi Arabia, it fundamentally begins with understanding the personality, the drive of Prince Mohammed bin Salman himself. The man who is, day to day, overseeing his country's ambitious objectives.
It leaves you with a powerful question, doesn't it? What are the long-term implications of a nation led by such a resolute, ambitious figure, someone so strategically repositioning his country on the global stage? How might all this influence regional and indeed international dynamics in the decades still to come? Something to think about.